don't want you catching on fire on my now viral video, Jeff Berwick on fire.
You want that.
All right.
10 million views.
That's true.
Jeff Berwick dies on.
Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and we are joined once again by the Dollar Vigilante, Jeff Berwick, here in Las Vegas, Nevada, coming up on Anarcho Vegas 2019, July 21st. Check your tickets out at www.anarchovegas.com, but let's talk about some things that have been really on the forefront of the news lately, including crypto. You cannot even turn on a mainstream media channel right now without seeing something about crypto. Mostly false news, but nonetheless, you can't really escape it. And, you know, one of the major things going forward in the crypto market appears to be scalability and, you know, I guess the diversity of the market, competing currencies and all these different ideas that have especially come out of the bear market. So I wanted to ask you, going forward, outside of Bitcoin, and we'll get into scalability in a second, but outside of Bitcoin, what do you find to be the most prevalent altcoin cryptocurrencies going forward?
Oh, it's a tough question right off the bat. You know, Bitcoin is the first. It has the biggest network. It has the biggest sort of following. You know, even myself, when I say Bitcoin, I'm not even just saying Bitcoin Core, I'm saying also Bitcoin Cash. You know, there is different branches of these things, but I have to, you know, give props to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's started it, and it's still got like the biggest network effects of all of them by far, Bitcoin Core. So, you know, I think it's a no-brainer. As an investment, as a speculation, and even just to use. But the problem is that it's a bit slow, and it's also getting a bit expensive, which I've complained about a number of times. And that's why I think some other ones definitely have some value. And I would say Bitcoin Cash is one of them. I would also say I'm a huge fan of Monero. And the reason is Monero is completely privacy focused. And this is the real key, in my opinion, to currencies. If we're going to have a real currency that really gets used across the world, of course it has to be able to be used by billions of people, but it also is really important that you can't track every single thing on it, and that Bitcoin is an open public ledger. It's fairly easy to track, you know, what's going on in it. You might not know who's doing it, but I think that's a real issue, and I think Monero is going to catch on. I would say those are the main ones when it comes to currencies. Now, of course, there's other ones like EOS and a number of other ones as well.
You're still bullish on EOS?
Yeah, I'm less bullish than I was at the beginning, because it's become quite political. It is a very democratic sort of a thing, and a lot of sort of statists have been very involved. But other than that, yeah, totally. I really like EOS. I also like Ethereum. But when it comes to the currencies, so we're just talking pure currency, Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, and Monero are the ones I look at.
Yeah, I was just hanging out in San Francisco about a week ago or so with Fluffy Pony from Monero. Very fun guy. Karaoke, one of those weird nights that I won't be forgetting anytime soon. But anyway, going forward, you mentioned scalability. I was mentioning scalability. We love Max Kaiser. I was recently talking with him, and he was talking about, you know, why he doesn't think it should be used necessarily for small transactions, only big transactions, stuff like that. I wanted to hear your take on the idea of, you know, Bitcoin being just a store of value versus something that needs to be scaled and used as a currency.
Yeah, I would disagree with Max on that. The real key, the reason Satoshi, whoever that was, started it was to create a currency that could be used for anything at any time very cheaply. That's the only way to become a real currency. So if Bitcoin has transaction fees which are 50 cents or $1 or $5, you can't use that to buy a cup of coffee. And the only way, and this is what Satoshi wanted, this is what was written into the Genesis block of Bitcoin. They put the front page of I believe some UK paper, Guardian, I believe, or one of them, just talking about the 2008 financial collapse and saying, we're going to change this. And the only way to change that is to become a real currency, and you can't do that if you have slow transaction times and fairly expensive fees. And this is where things like Bitcoin Cash come in, and things like Monero and others. There's Litecoin. I'm not a huge fan of Litecoin, but you know, they are doing things that look pretty good as well. But that's the real key. This whole concept that Bitcoin is a store of value or a digital gold, I believe, is some people have kind of infiltrated Bitcoin, and that'd be people like Blockstream, and they might not even know what they're doing. Some of these coders, I don't want to harp on coders too much, but they're not completely aware of the entire world. They're kind of just coding, And they kind of bought in, a lot of the Bitcoin coders, into, oh, this will just be a store of value. Well, that's not what Bitcoin was intended to be. And if we're going to ever get rid of central banks and big governments, we need a currency, which is a free market currency, which is scalable, easy to use, low transaction fees. And by low, I mean a penny, maybe 2 or 3 pennies, not talking dollars. And that's where other cryptos come in.
Yeah, and there's a lot of politics at play, of course, as per usual. And I mean, like, when it comes to sending a massive transaction, yeah, it's cheaper than anything you'll ever find. I mean, $7 at the most to send like $40,000. Oh, that's terrible.
40 million sometimes.
Or 40 million, exactly. But then,
great.
yeah, but then like $1.50 for a coffee, and then you're paying $7.50. It's like, wait a second.
Right.
But I wanted to ask, going forward then, I mean, we are seeing what some people have said is a ghost crash. We're seeing the fall of the dollar. We're looking at a potential bear market for the dollar. I mean, I think it always has been kind of a bear market.
It's always a bear market.
But
it's
I
always
mean,
going down in value.
yeah, and officially, though, looking at a bear market, and I'm just thinking, like, what does it signify when you see the dollar going down, or we see Trump talk about lowering interest rates, Powell talking about lowering interest rates, propping up the Federal Reserve, getting bigger and stronger, all while Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and gold and silver are skyrocketing in value? What do you think that says about these assets and this class of assets?
Well, this is exactly what is going to happen. What I've said is going to happen is we've reached the point of no return for these fiat currencies. This is the final days of them. And by days, I mean weeks, months, or years, but not decades. And we're seeing that now. And I think it was the IMF who just came out like last week and said negative interest rates are going to be the new normal. And that's crazy. That's insane. Negative interest rates. You're paying someone to lend the money. This is the final end game of it. And of course, you have Trump talking about how he wants more QE, quantitative easing. We've heard the Federal Reserve say they're definitely going to do more quantitative easing.
Well, Trump just said that he wants to be in a currency war with China and devalue the dollar in competition. I'm like, yeah, that's going to work out great, because that's always worked out great in the past.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like in what you want as a currency, if you're going to have an area, and you could call it the United States, and you have a currency there, you want that currency to be sound and strong. You don't want to devalue it. Now, other countries do, and the U.S. does it as well, but basically they're all just devaluing to the bottom right now. We're going to enter into hyperinflation in all the fiat currencies in the next couple of years. I know a lot of people can't imagine it, but by numbers, if you just look at math and you understand what's going on, this is all going to go into hyperinflation. And you brought up how Bitcoin's been rising, a lot of cryptos have been rising, also gold, and not so much silver, but that'll be next, I believe. These are the beginning of what I've been talking about for the last 10 years. And they're going to start to really rise, and people are really going to start to really realize what hyperinflation is very soon.
Yeah, we're seeing a race to the top, and all that makes us free, especially people's self-awareness and our own individual push to be free and responsible and independent, but also a race to the bottom for currencies. I always hear like, oh, well, the US dollar is falling versus the euro, or the euro is falling versus the US dollar. And I'm like, they're both falling. It's just one's falling faster than the other. But before we finish it off with Anarcho Vegas and talk about that briefly, I wanted to ask, the number one comment I will get on this video, it's always a comment I get on any video about cryptocurrency, no matter how many years I've been talking about it, I know you've been talking about it for a long time, is it's a mark of the beast. It's fiat 2.0. It's owned by the government. Bitcoin is, the new world reserve SDR currency, and it's going to enslave us all. And we are pushing, fraud and scams and that kind of stuff. What do you say to that viewpoint?
Well, I don't know how much time you have, but, the Bible, I don't know who wrote it. So these people are saying, I'm not saying I'm against it or for it. I just like, well, who wrote it exactly? They're like, well, God. It's like, I'm to prove it, right? And then in the Bible, it talks about the mark of the beast, which is very interesting because we're actually entering into that. That's basically what Facebook Libra coin is. And essentially what the globalists want is to end up with a one world currency, a one world government, one world central bank, and to have everyone into a system where every single transaction is tracked and taxed. And the mark of the beast thing is that people like us, at some point, they'll just turn off the chip and they'll say, well, you can't buy anything anymore. You can't pay rent. You can't buy food. And we have to go live in the woods and stuff like that. Now, you get to this point where, it's very interesting for me. I started with Bitcoin in 2011 and everyone thought I was crazy. Like, this could never work. Well, it's working. And now you get some people are like, well, this is like a globalist agenda now. It's like, well, is it total BS and it's not going to work, or is it a globalist agenda? The cool thing I like about it is that people are questioning everything, and I love that. But I think they're going a little bit too far on this stuff because they don't understand money. Hardly anyone does, and this is the whole plan of the so-called elites, is to make sure no one understands economics, no one knows what money is, no one knows how central banks work, and your average person just does not understand it. The real key about a money is that it can't be controlled by anyone, and that it's sound, it can't be inflated at will by someone. That's basically the key for our money. And we don't have that today. We have a completely central, top-down control. And in fact, central banking is a tenet of communism. So we have a communist system everywhere in the world on the fiat fractional reserve banking. So when people say, well, Bitcoin is just a globalist agenda, well, you can't inflate it at will. No one controls it. This is very, very important. And that's why we're seeing Bitcoin rising now. So, to all the people out there who, I know you're starting to wake up, which is great. Thank you. It's about time. Now you're going a little bit too far. This is what happens with people sometimes. They go from 0 to like 150, come back to 100, look into it. And if you don't understand it, it takes actually a long time to understand money and economics. And I know most people don't have the time, but if you did, you would know that a lot of the crypto projects and a lot of things going on in crypto are to get rid of central banks, to get rid of governments. And that will create a world of peace and prosperity like we've never known it. Nothing like this so-called mark of the beast system. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Bitcoin's been kind of co-opted to an extent. They're trying to make it so it's not really a full currency. That's why we're also working on other things, Bitcoin Cash and Monero and stuff like that. We're not going to stop, and they can't actually stop us. But it's funny to hear a lot of the people who you'd think are on our side attacking us as we're trying to save the world.
Yeah, or even still for our choice in investments, like it's any of their business. But yeah, again, fiat means force. Fiat means the enforcement. And obviously, if the US dollar was enforced on us through enforced usury contracts that we never sign on the social contract system, whatever that is, then it wouldn't even be a bad thing. You just wouldn't have to buy it. That's it. I mean, as long as it's forced, that's when it's a bad thing. Fiat, enforced rule, legal tender laws, etc. And you know what? At the end of the day, people don't understand the subjectivity of value. They think it's physical. That's only what value is. Then I guess the internet's worthless. And then at the same time, it's like, tulips, they're not scarce, and you could make as many of them as you want. Beanie Babies, they have no use case. What are you going to do with a Beanie Baby? Are you going to pay the bills with it? Probably not. Again, there's just a lot of lack of understanding of money value, where value comes from, and how subjective value is to the individual. But anyway, before you catch on fire there behind you, I see you slowly moving further away from it, and we got to go eat dinner. I wanted to quickly end this off.
On fire at the end of this interview, it'd be like 10 million views, though.
I know. I have thought about that, Jeff. That's why I'm kind of pushing you this way. Yeah. I don't know, product in your hair. But anyway, finishing it off, we have Anarcho Vegas 2019 coming up July 21st. Obviously, Candles in the Dark 19th and 20th, Free Ross party dinner on the 20th after Freedom Fest, and of course the 22nd, I believe, Juan Galt's Be Your Own Vault seminar. So I wanted to finish this off by saying there's a million different Anarchapulco spin-offs happening all across the board.
I don't think a million, but
well, we can hope. One day.
It's happening more and more, which is great. Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, what do you think is spawning this movement towards anarchy like we've never seen it before?
I think it's a number of things. One is, if you look at younger people, they're destroyed by the system. When you're born today as a baby here in the USSA, you've got like $500,000 worth of debt that you're supposed to pay off. Then they go and they're told to go to the colleges, which is, first of all, they go through 12 years of government indoctrination camp. They don't learn anything. Then they're like, well, you got to go for 4 more years, and you got to pay $100,000 or $200,000 for it, and you'll be in debt for life, and you can't ever get out of that debt. Yeah. So the young people are starting to realize there's something wrong here. Now, a lot of them get it really wrong, which is unfortunate, and they listen to people like Bernie Sanders, and they go, we just got to raise the minimum wage. As you know, because you understand economics, that destroys jobs, that destroys people. That's very unfortunate. But I think that's a big part of it, is this system that the older people kind of got some of the benefits of. When they first started Social Security, which I call socialist insecurity, it's a Ponzi scheme. And so the first person who got it had like 60 people paying for their pension. Now it's like 3 people paying for it, and they're working their butts off, and they're paying, and they'll never actually get the benefits of it. So people are waking up. I think there's also a conscious revolution happening. I don't know why. If you talk to hippies, they talk about the age of Aquarius, they talk about the Mayan calendar in 2012, and actually if you think about it, around 2012 a lot of stuff changed. That's right around when Bitcoin started to come out.
Maybe the world did end and we're in a simulation, huh?
Could be, and I don't know, but we're here right now, and we just got to do what we got to do. And what I like to do, and I know what you like to do as well, is just spread voluntary information, talk about how markets help people, because they do. That's how we have these microphones, that's how we have all these cameras. It's very unfortunate that the people who have been in control of the world for a long time, for at least hundreds of years, have been really trying to use the government schools, the colleges, the mainstream media, which is complete propaganda. It is, if anyone thinks CNN, NBC, Fox News, any of them have any agenda to tell you the truth, you are so brainwashed, I can't even begin to talk to you. But people are starting to figure that out now too. So people are waking up. We're in like this waking up process. And I don't know why it's happening, but it's great. And it's going to happen. And, we just need to keep working towards a freer world and spread the message of freedom. And it's not just that too, but giving people the options. So, 10 years ago when I was talking about this stuff, people would say, well, how are we going to get out from the fiat reserve system, Federal Reserve System and the U.S. Federal Reserve note and things like that? And I was like, I don't know, but I'm sure the market will come up with something. Then Bitcoin came out. So we're creating new systems as well. And if you think about the world, it's pretty amazing. 15 years ago, FBI book, Facebook didn't even exist. Now the largest taxi company in the world is Uber, and they own no taxis. And this 15 years ago, they didn't exist. The largest hotel company in the world owns no hotels, Airbnb. 15 years ago, they didn't exist. So things are happening very fast.
And the government tried really hard to shut all of those things down, and they failed miserably.
They can't. Yeah. As long as enough people just continue to understand what is the best benefit to them, and they don't even need to understand the philosophy. Even things like Uber and all that are pretty anarcho-capitalist sort of ideas. They're getting away from government regulated, enforced, top-down control taxi systems and having a lot more of a bottom-up sort of control. Anyone could be an Uber driver, which is great. Yeah. And your average person has no idea that that's pretty anarcho-capitalist. I don't know if probably the Uber person isn't even an anarcho-capitalist himself, but he's probably a capitalist and he recognized there was an opportunity there. So we just need to create more systems, which most people won't understand the reasons why, but they'll just go, oh, this is much better. And that's one thing with Bitcoin. When you try to transfer money from a bank, first of all, they're going to freeze your account. They're going to call you all the time, ask you what you're doing. They're going to want fingerprints and all this kind of stuff. Bitcoin, you got Bitcoin, you just press beep. China, beep, you just transferred $1 million. Yeah. No one can stop it, and that's the beauty of it.
There's just some government agent looking at the blockchain going red in the face like, oh, I couldn't do anything.
How do we extort them?
But anyway, thank you for joining us. I think in the end, I think one of the world's biggest currencies is Bitcoin right now. I believe it's the 8th if you bring in gold and silver. Gold is the number 1 technically right now in ownership. I can bring up the Forbes magazine poll for that in the video. But anyway, it's going to be great. Network, talk with us, hang out with us, educate yourself, come out of it a smarter person. I come out of all these events with just a little bit more information. I think it's really valuable. Exactly what you said. One day people will wake up and unwittingly, via convenience, the same way totalitarianism works, via the hand of convenience, this system will be replaced and it will be an anarchist system, and people will go, oh, I wasn't even ideologically an anarchist, but here we are, and it all worked out. So anyway, I appreciate your time today, Jeff. Make sure to check out anarchovegas.com, linked below in the comments. Don't miss it. It is coming up on July 21st, the conference itself, so make sure to check out those tickets now, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Like what you see here at WHAM, don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, we can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we're so heavily demonetized and censored and shadow banned. It's getting really bad, folks. If everyone just gave $1 single a month to, say, Patreon or our Subscribestar, where we do subscriber-only content, we could really get out of this rut that we are currently in as YouTube tries to stifle independent media and prop up the mainstream media. This is really important. This is one of the most important times in independent media history for us to say it's now or never. Let's keep moving forward and let's be that change that we wish to see in the world. Of course, there's also our Bitcoin address below as well as on the screen for you to scan if you please. And of course, we got events coming up. So make sure to check us out at anarchovegas.com. Anarchovegas.com. Use promo code WAM, that's WAM, for a 10% discount on your tickets. It's on July 19th, 20th, and 21st in, of course, Las Vegas, Nevada. That's anarchovegas.com. Make sure to check us out there and find us on websites like BitTube and Minds, and just try to support independent media, if not myself, any of the other big independent medias out there, to help us continuously bring our message to you free of charge so that we can really change the guard as we move forward into a dramatically polarized, crazy future. Let's try to make it as sustainable as possible. It comes down to you guys. You are the change you wish to see. You guys will help us get through these tough times. So anyway, check out all those links. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.